Offshore construction hydrography is primarily centered in the seismic, offshore oil and gas, cable laying, and marine renewable energy industries. Of these, the oil and gas industry is by far the largest utilizer of hydrographic expertise. In 2009, offshore oil and gas utilized 26% of the world hydrographic market. In war or conflict, hydrographic surveyors are often deployed in the advance forces to chart or assist in clearance operations prior to combat operations. Their offshore construction survey colleagues are closely involved with startup operations to commence marine works for developing today's large-scale offshore resource projects. These can commonly involve billions of dollars of expenditure, with associated survey budgets running to millions of dollars, estimated at approximately 1.6% total project expenditure. Due to the high level of expertise required within the offshore oil and gas industry, the services of hydrographic surveyors are utilized worldwide, a growing trend since the late 60s. Consequently, no other discipline of hydrography places greater responsibility on the shoulders of the hydrographic surveyor than construction hydrography, which can be compounded by fatigue, communication problems, and long periods away from home. One of the essential skills required of a Level 1 hydrographic surveyor is knowledge of seamanship and marine meteorology. Surveys carried out from many types of vessels can be subject to the most demanding and dangerous climatic conditions known. The hydrographic surveyor must be able to assess these conditions in terms of a safe working environment. He or she must balance the risk inherent in these operations against commercial and scheduling imperatives. Level 1 certification and ongoing continuing professional development places considerable emphasis on seamanship, seagoing experience, and safety. This inevitably leads to an increasingly important aspect of offshore construction, that of health, safety, and environment. 25 or 30 years ago, this was a relatively minor consideration in hydrographic work associated with offshore projects, and older surveyors will remember when PPE was virtually non-existent. That began to change throughout the 80s, leading up to 1988. The 2010 Deepwater Horizon blowout in the Gulf of Mexico was both tragic and an environmental disaster. However, the Piper Alpha disaster on the 6th of July 1988, involving the destruction of a major oil production platform and the death of 167 men, was a tragic and defining event in the maturing offshore oil and gas industry. Several current Level 1 hydrographic surveyors were working offshore in the North Sea that night. The Cullen report on the disaster was released in November 1990 and made 160 findings that remain relevant to construction hydrographic work today. As with all personnel working offshore, offshore construction hydrographic surveyors are now required to maintain basic, internationally recognized standards in offshore survival, helicopter escape, firefighting, and first aid. Hydrographic survey personnel in supervisory positions offshore are required to oversee and approve all aspects of Team HSE on board their respective vessels, barges, or platforms. Level 1 certification recognizes this essential aspect of a hydrographic surveyor's experience by requiring ongoing training and continuing professional development commonly undertaken by other professions for certification to remain current. As technologies evolve, CPD is an effective requirement of Level 1 certification currency in which to stay abreast of industry developments. The role of the hydrographic surveyor will no doubt evolve along with other marine professions. We anticipate the marine renewable sector to increase exponentially in coming years. The European offshore wind energy market alone is estimated to be worth over $125 billion over the coming decade. This, along with natural gas and LNG development in increasingly deeper waters, will ensure strong and sustainable growth in offshore construction hydrographic expertise. We thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. On behalf of both institutes and the SSSI Hydrography Commission, perhaps you'd like to consider applying for a Level 1 or 2 certification Alternately, encourage your staff to do so, recognizing the importance of certification of hydrographic surveyors within your own organization, and as a stake in the future of Australasian hydrographic surveying and offshore marine resource and energy development.